It's been 25 years since I've read Proust, and I've now finished the first 100 pages. And I've had a couple of emails suggesting that people might take longer um, due to various commitments, and obviously that it is quite a dense experience. These first 100 pages are quite knotty at times, and it takes a long time to get used to his style. And I've worked out that it's almost impossible to read anything else because when you return to other prose, Proust rhythms are in kind of inside you, and then when you get back to Proust, those other rhythms really disrupt um, the sort of the undulations of Proust, um, and actually mean that he's incomprehensible for a couple of pages until you get into the flow. So I think we should adopt a as much as you can, 50 to 100 pages a week. If we're going to carry on, I imagine people will have dropped out by now. Um, but let's think on that. It'll be interesting to hear your thoughts. I mean, my thoughts on the first 100 pages is clearly we hit two very important moments in the kind of Proust mythology. One is uh, the waiting for the kiss or for his mother to come upstairs. That is that is one of the leitmotifs of the book, wanting something you can't have, um, and maybe finding it less rewarding than you expected when you get it. So, but that's I know I remember that section very vividly from many years ago. So probably about 30 years ago when I read that part. And then of course we have the Madeline section, which is the key to the novel, involuntary memory. Um, and it's just towards the end of the first bit of Combray. And so there are two moments. And of course, we've been introduced to Swan. Um, well, obviously, the narrator as well. We've introduced to Swan. And I think it's extraordinary the delicacy and subtlety by which Swan is introduced over those first sort of 50 pages. It's this intriguing figure that stops by either for dinner or for something after dinner. No one's quite sure who he is. Some people think that he's maybe slightly in a class slightly below them, and people slightly above them. That he's married wrong, but he's this incredibly decorous figure that, when in company, never says anything sort of profound or super intelligent, but merely enables the conversation through his great erudition, and would find it vulgar to show that erudition. But sometimes he lets it slip, and then sometimes in the papers, his social height, which confuses, amuses, and the gathering of the family in Combray. So he becomes an incredibly fascinating figure at this point, and the class system, the French. We're introduced essentially to the French class system at that point, mainly out of scene, but sort of through. We have the servants, and then we have the middle class of the family, and then a little bit comes in sort of refracted through Swan, and then there's bits in the newspaper um, of a great height above, which is very pretentious to aspire to. But that's where we go. That's where we're heading. I mean, we're heading down, across, and up, but we're very much heading up over the book. And then towards the end of the first 100 pages, we meet a writer only through his work and through Swan's friendship with him. And I've never known how to pronounce Bergot, whether it's actually Bergot, but let's, for argument's sake, call it Bergot. And he's one of the three great creative forces in the book. So Bergot, the novelist, Van Toy, I think, can't remember, is the composer, and Elster is the painter, who come to represent, that sort of impressionist early modern movement in French culture. So we've covered quite a lot of ground, but it's mostly set up. And I have to say, it's been difficult. He's not a. I thought I would just fall into it, and not find it difficult, but I have found some. I've drifted off. I've become entangled, not in a good way. But then there are, rather like that moment of the Madeleine, sort of surprise illuminations. I I have recommended the translation I'm reading to someone. I need to go and go back to the original Terence Kilmartin translation, because I think I find this a little knottier and less free flowing. But on the other hand, that might just be I'm a different kind of reader now, than I was in my early 20s. But I also know that there's been a lot of concern about translating the right tense in Proust. And Proust is written in a tense that we don't have in the English. Don't ask me what it is. Doesn't English tenses do my head in, let alone French tenses. So yeah, and I wonder whether this one has the slight unsettled, slightly disconcerting French attempt to capture a kind of immediacy of a certain French past tense that I'm not sure is in the other translations. That said, from what I understand, this is the most complete edition, and up to date. So it does include, and so certain other translations going back over time didn't include everything that Proust had finally done, finally added before he died, and then they found certain bits, etc., etc. So anyway. I'll be very much interested in what you think so far. I think persevere if you're finding it difficult. If you're finding almost a little trivial, that nothing much happens. It doesn't, but it certainly starts to hit its stride with Swan in Love, and in a sense, I think one has to go through this to understand what's happening. Well, not what's happening, but the kind of philosophy of Proust, what I would call the Proustian phenomenology, the apprehension of reality. One is getting used to that, and we're being orientated. Anyway, that's it. Please leave me your comments. You don't have to, and I will see you next week. Thank you.